Well, welcome everyone to the morning meeting. We love having you all here every week. We're really excited for today's edition of the morning meeting as we are celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week here at Groundwork Ohio. So we have two educators with us today that we're going to ask some questions to and just hear about the amazing work that they do, why they love their job, and then also just hear about some challenges that they experience and some systematic things that happen in the field. I will be admitting people as I talk, so if I get tripped up, I'm gonna hope that everybody's gonna give me grace today. So before we get started, in terms of running into our panel, I am going to give it like a minute because typically people are still jumping in a minute or two into this call. But I am going to give a quick policy update. Before I do that, I am going to talk about some other things and I'll do the policy update on the back end. That way you guys all have a chance to, everybody has a chance to hear it that's still joining. Um, the legislature was on spring break. We returned last week and we have not taken a beat since then. Things have been moving really quickly, and we're going to talk about many different opportunities that you're all going to have to engage and participate with us. One of the things that we've been talking about and why we're here today is we're talking about Teacher Appreciation Week. And in our Teacher Appreciation Week, we want to understand we want to understand the challenges that teachers experience and really show them appreciation by advocating for them, by saying that we need to invest in early childhood educators. So you might have saw an email come out this week, or maybe you didn't, but we're really elevating this opportunity to advocate to your policymakers on investments in childcare with a sign-on letter. I'm going to drop that into the chat now. So you're able to click on that and sign on, and really just let our policymakers know that the childcare is important. Investments in childcare is important, and our educators are a big piece of that. You might have saw in our email we sent out this week that 95% of early childhood educators in Ohio are women. It's strong, powerful women that are uplifting our childcare system. And in the women's sign-on letter that I dropped is really to celebrate and acknowledge the work that they do. Um, Another thing I'm going to drop into the chat is a advocacy alert for our Senate, for the Senate. As you know, and I can do a quick timeline, the bill was in the House. The executive version was released in February. It then went to the House. The House released a substitute version of House Bill 96 on April 1st. Then it took amendments. Amendments were added, and then there was a second version of that, the omnibus bill, that was released on April 8th and voted out of the House on April 9th. Then we saw a 2 week spring break for the legislature, and now House Bill 96 is in the Senate. So we have a lot of work to do as we talk about some of the things that we want to see happen in the Senate, that you can follow along in our budget advocacy webpage that I will also drop in. So the first thing I'm going to drop is our advocacy alert for the Senate. So let the Senate know as they're making deliberations right now on what's in the budget that we need to invest in kids. And then I'm also going to drop a link to our budget advocacy page that's going to have all the resources that you need to understand what's happening in the budget, what investments are we working with, and what are we asking legislators to do. So as I keep admitting people into the waiting room, and then also just want to let you all know that there is committee testimony happening right now. So Senate committees are listening to testimony on where we should invest in the budget. And there's going to be opportunity if you want to give testimony. Next week is one of the best opportunities. The Senate Health Committee will be hearing issues related to the Department of Children and Youth. So that's anything related to childcare, to home visiting, things like that. There's opportunities to give testimony. There's going to be committee hearing on May 13th at 9:30 a.m. And there's going to be a meeting on May 14th starting at 2:30 p.m. If you would like to submit testimony, I'm going to put in some instructions in the chat. One on when testimony is and then what committee, and then a toolkit and instructions as well that I'm going to drop in there. I'm going to include this link, but then also on our budget advocacy page that I dropped in the chat, you're able to see there's a testimony toolkit. So if you want help on how do you write this, how do you talk about it, what things are we talking about, how are we talking to the Senate, you're able to do that. And then there's instructions here on how to submit testimony to the Senate. We also have a list of amendments for the Senate that are currently being circulated. That includes putting back the kindergarten readiness assessment, repealing the House's repeal of continuous Medicaid coverage for eligible children birth to 3, restoring the AS's investments in Help Me Grow and infant vitality, reinstating eligibility expansion for publicly funded childcare to 160% of the federal poverty level, and removing the Medicaid reimbursement restrictions for doulas, restoring AS's child tax credit. If you have any questions on any of those amendments or you want to hear more or see a copy of that, you can reach out to me at hunter@groundworkohio.org. groundworkohio.org. So now, with all that being said, we are going to jump into our panel and why we're here today. I'm excited to introduce Victoria Phillips and Faten Awadallah. Victoria, at just 29 years old, Victoria brings over a decade of passion and experience in the classroom at the Little Miracles Early Development Center, where she nurtures bright minds of preschoolers ages 3 and 4 with 11 years in early child education, and her CDA credential proudly earned last year. Congratulations, Victoria. She is committed to lifelong learning and professional growth. Also happy to have us here today, Faten, who received her CDA from Starting Point. She's been working for the centers for over 20 years. She spends most of her time with infants, toddlers, and her favorite thing about working in the classroom is teaching the new things and giving them cuddles. Love to hear that. We are so excited to have both of you here today. So I'm going to just start with some questions. Feel free, Victoria and Faten, to go back and forth. You can jump in if you have an answer. But the first question that I'm going to ask you is just tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your day to day, and also we would love to hear what you love about your job.
So I can go first. First of all, day to day, if you work in childcare, you would know no day looks the same. So with preparation, I feel like it's not even just the day of. You prepare the day before, even weeks and months beforehand. But with that being said, each day for me, you know that you have to have a good attitude no matter what, because whatever you go through, whatever you feel will be put onto your children. That's one thing that I love to teach in my classroom is, empathy. So being able to identify when somebody is, going through something or they're hurt, to be able to socially and emotionally realize and to be able to help another person. So one thing I really love about my job, though, is being able to see curious minds like grow and learn, and to really want to learn, because these are the years that you actually see if they're going to either love learning or stray from it. And I think that is one of our jobs.
Thank you, Victoria. Faten, do you want to go next?
Yes, also communication, knowing how the child's night went, what happened the day before, is, any updates. Also, like if I have concerns or anything, I like to like share with the parents just to make the kid like, a whole. And like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and you as a parent are doing what you're supposed to do. I like the fact like they enjoy coming, like seeing their faces in the morning, smiling and like bye, like to their parents. It's it's very fulfilling seeing like these babies come and they're actually happy to be here and happy to learn.
Love that. I would love to ask both of you how you got into the early childhood field.
Well, when I was younger, I never actually got the chance to be in early education. And then when I started to see, like, when I got older, the people that I was around, when they would talk about like preschool or daycare, I never knew what that was like. But I also seen the things that they were doing differently than I was doing. So it made me curious as to what was going on at a daycare or a child care center or preschool that made them who they were and changed me for who I was for not being there. So once I got into the field and started to see like this is what happens before school, and it really does make a difference. So
How about you, Faten? How did you get
And
into the field?
for me, it started by volunteering. And believe it or not, volunteering at my nephew's a daycare, well, not daycare, like early childhood classroom. And like I was young and I was just like surprised by the age of 2 and 3 what they were doing. I'm like, they already know all this stuff. They're doing like numbers, letters, colors. I was very impressed, I have to say, very intrigued, and I just continued to volunteer when I could. And then from that, I started inquiring about like I want to do this at a permanent, as a permanent thing. And then the teachers there like gave me the resources I needed and then, the education I needed to continue. And then ever since that day till now, I've been here. It's all the same place.
You both had mentioned in your bios that you both have a CDA. Can you explain what a CDA is and how you feel like that has prepared you to work with young children?
So it's a credential pretty much to show that you have an idea of what's going on, what is needed from the children, what you should bring when you are here. I feel like everything when it came down to the process of getting my CDA let me know that I was doing exactly what I should be doing. So the things you were already doing them, you just didn't have the name to put to what you were
Mhm.
doing.
And for those who are of you who are unfamiliar with the CDA, it stands for Child Development Associate. Fatan, how would you feel like having the CDAs prepared you, or made you maybe talk about if it's made you a better educator?
Definitely, because it gives you like different ways to handle situations. It gives you ideas on how to prep for that day. It helps you lesson plan. It helps you deal with like difficult behavior, like idea. It gives you ideas, and just like the information, and it just makes you more confident as a teacher because it's showing you like how to move on in the classroom and how to make your classroom better and how to make you a better teacher for the kids.
Very cool. I would also love to hear from both of you on what, we talked a little bit about this earlier. I'd asked what your day-to-day looks like, but can you just explain or help everyone on the call understand all the things that you do in a day? What are the things that you have to think about as you're navigating your day and as you're doing things for children? Can you lay out all of those things?
It's a lot. So there's also when you first come in, you have to think of, just like she was saying earlier, their night before, what's going on at home, the struggles that they might be facing, social and emotional. If there's, delays that are also within the child, the family life, when they're in school, how they deal with other children, if they're an only child, how to involve them with another child, group activities. Some children are not as advanced, some kids aren't even able to, if they're not able to run, you have to work with development, how they just would move, just the simplest things. You have to lay the ground first, make sure whatever they're not able to do, you can give them the tools to try to do it. And if you can't, you have to, make exceptions sometimes, or you have to give them a different way of doing something to make sure that everyone is included in the activity, even if it's put in a different way. Along with nurturing, I feel like we're one of the biggest nurturers, a part of their family. We are also their family in a sense because some kids come to school for love. And before they can even get to learning, they have to feel safe. They have to feel like this is an environment where they can be themselves, giving them identity. So making sure that at all times they feel like this is somewhere that they belong.
Thank you for sharing that, Victoria. Autumn, what would you say are all the things you have to do in a day? What are all the things you're thinking about?
So number one is making sure the environment is safe and it's clean and everything that they need is at their reach, like toys, art supplies, anything they would need throughout the day. Also like when they come in, teaching them like proper hand washing. Like you have to wash your hands We also brush teeth to show them this is important. Like after you eat, you brush your teeth. Also how to work with each other, even though you don't want to share, you don't want, you want to be by yourself, you don't want, and you want everything to yourself. You teach them like it's almost like a sibling setup. Like I don't want my brother to play with me, but I have to learn to exist with him. Sometimes, I do have to share, even though when I don't want to. It just gives them the empowerment of like I could do this by myself when it comes to like eating or a simple thing as taking off their coats or putting their coats on or being able to get a toy or something they need because it's right there.
So what I hear you saying, which is incredible, is you're not just teaching educational things. You're not just teaching numbers or letters
Mhm.
or other parts of development. You're teaching relationship skills. You're teaching how to get along with one another, how to play, how to solve problems, lifelong skills that they're going to use their entire life. And it's starting here
Yes.
in your guys' class, and that's amazing to hear. I- I've loved hearing about all of the things that you do and the passion that I can hear in both of your voices about your job. I would like to hear a little bit, and if you could talk to the group today on what's the most challenging part of your job.
Um, I would say the most challenging, it kind of tugs at your heart, is seeing the lack of. So when you see a family struggling and you see how, even if the parent hasn't verbally told a child what is happening, the effects that it shows on the child. So it's only so much we can do when we are here, but try to give them the resources to get in a better place. So I say like seeing families struggle due to lack of resources. And that could be all the way down to even just transportation to get them here.
What about you, Faten?
For us in our center, it's just staffing.
Mhm.
The turn like it lately there's been a lot because like obviously when you get I don't know how to say it. Like when you don't get paid enough, people don't want to do the job. So they go somewhere where they are compensated and where they are like getting more benefits and more money and not doing as much as we're doing as a Head Start. Um, Also, like with our agency, we accept all kids no matter what. Because like especially when some other schools won't accept them due to lack of potty training or behavior or like any reason, if we could help them, we accept them. We don't turn anybody away unless we absolutely tried everything we could to accept them and we can't provide what they need. Then we try to help them go somewhere where they can have their needs met. So and in that aspect, we get like all kinds of behaviors and disabilities and needs and stuff. So like it's just like working what with what the kids have and want.
So you brought up a really great point about turnover and that impacting staffing shortages, and we're seeing that in lots of data across different inputs, surveys, reports, state level data. And you mentioned that pay is one of the parts that impacts that the most.
Mhm.
Can either of you talk about how has being an early child educator impacted you personally financially?
I would say it's not the highest paying job. It's one of the most rewarding though.
Yes.
So yes, there's other places you could go, but when you see that this is a field that is in need and what we do is way beyond the paycheck, you kind of just you would want more, but you know it's a need for you.
How about you, Fatin?
Yeah, the same here. Like the pay is not enough to like if I was by myself, if I wasn't married, I wouldn't be able to take care of myself and my son. But again, I like you're not doing this for the money, you're doing it for the reward, for like helping the children, for that the feeling you get after you leave the day saying, you know what, I did something good. So like again, it's not if you're doing this for the money, then find somewhere else to go because it really isn't enough. And being 22 years here is still not enough. But you know, you do what you have to do. You get through your day. Some people have second jobs. I know some coworkers who have to work on the weekends or they, you know, have to work a second job after this, after their shift is over just to make ends meet. But they still do it.
I feel like you're highlighting a really important aspect is that many people have to do multiple things to make things work. You had mentioned having, if you didn't have another income in your household, that this wouldn't be feasible for you, or people are being creative about having second jobs or doing extra work, but they're doing it because they want to stay in the field. So our
Yes.
educators are, teachers like both of you who are doing this work, you're figuring out because you're so passionate about this. What would it mean for both of you if you were paid at the wage that at a livable wage that you felt like you deserve? What would that mean for you? How would that change your life?
It would give you more of a freedom to really do what you need to do, down into even your classroom, resources for your own classroom,
Mhm.
but also to make sure that you have the stability when you go home to be able to get a good night's rest and not worry about what is next for you because you've been struggling paycheck to paycheck.
Mhm.
It's a peace of mind.
What would you say about that, Faten?
Well, it'll be definitely like less stressful. Um, like instead of worrying like I can't do this because you know I have to wait till next page period, you're like, okay, I'm good, I'm covered. You can focus more on your job and not worried about anything else. Like you're just like a better person, calmer, and you know less stressed out. Let's just say, yeah.
There's a couple questions in the chat that I'm going to interweave as we talk. Eileen asked, do you think that's a detriment to the field, the pay? Shouldn't early educators make enough to not have to have a second job? How would you guys respond to that?
Most definitely. I feel like there's a lot of good teachers that just cannot be in the field because they would not even survive themselves. So they had to find something else to do. And maybe it was just because of the higher pay. No matter how
Mhm.
much the passion they had for the job, they couldn't survive that.
How would you answer that, Faten?
Well, for us, a lot of our teachers leave to go to like Cleveland Public Schools because they're off for the summer and they get paid more than we do. But I don't know. I just think people would was well, we won't have such a big turnaround if we did have like you know equal pay as everybody else. And and I feel like we're doing more at this stage in our life than like I'm not saying that teachers for the older kids are not, you know, are not important, but it's learning starts at birth. It starts at birth, and then you have to be very dedicated to do what we do because like every day is a challenge. And again, if the pay's not matching what you're doing, you just feel drained sometimes because you're like, wait, why am I doing this? Sometimes, you know?
Have you asked yourself that? Why are you doing this?
You get your bad days sometime. I'm not gonna lie, yes. But again, when you see that kid smiling, or when the parent comes to pick up and the kid's like, no, no, I don't want, you know, I'm not ready to leave yet. Like it's almost like it makes it's very rewarding. Or when they're learning like a shape that you know you worked on for a week and they just look at it and say, oh, square. You're like, oh my God, you got it. You know, like it's very rewarding.
And those kids are lucky to have you in your classroom.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And kind of just the takeaway I hear from both of you around that, I hear this theme of like it's rewarding, we do it because it's so impactful, it's such important work. And what would it look like if you didn't have to choose between livable wages or higher pay and doing something that is so important that you love, and just kind of leaving that question out there to sit for a second. I do want to circle back to another question in the chat. From Todd about, do you have summer reading programs for your school age children, and what are those programs if you do have them?
So we don't have school age. Ours is up to 5 years old, but we do have lots of programs throughout the center with reading. Yeah, Future Ready 5, Get Ready to Read Again. So, but it's just not throughout, well, it is throughout our summer, which our summer is different from the actual school summer. So yeah, definitely have lots of reading programs.
And kind of following up on that question, are there other initiatives or programs that you guys are participating in, whether at the county or state level, that's on top of your day-to-day job, whether it be reading programs or working with outside organizations? What do those look like and how does that impact your work?
We have a lot of different programs. So like Future Ready 5, they give us social and emotional. We got books that we read with them that go along with social and emotional activities. They've given us the math one. So we implement that within our lesson plans and we do them 3 times a week along with Get Ready to Read. So every day is a new lesson, but then we make sure that we just go back and add them in again for the next week because repetition is like the best teacher ever. So we do that. And then on top of that, we have the math program, which also you wouldn't even think, but math could go in with the reading lessons. So we try to intertwine them. But we learned that reading every day has really impacted them. So we love the fact that we have those partnerships that we are able to use. And it also helps us like make our lessons instead of just coming off the top of your head or just using just what a couple of kids need. It ties into each kid and you can always make it work for any age group. So I have 3-year-olds, 3 and 4-year-olds, and even my 3-year-olds are getting it now.
You guys are doing just so much work to prepare kids for school, for reading, for math, but also just for life. Like the work you're doing right now is so important, is setting these kids up for success in school and beyond. I have one more question for you both. I would love for both of you to answer this. If you could talk to a policymaker right now, what would you say to them about early childhood educators?
We're more than supervising. We're more than just watching children. We're nurturing them, their brain development, emotionally, socially. We lay the groundwork for their lifelong learning. And somewhere, somehow, we are undervalued and underpaid. So I feel like the teachers need to be invested in so that we can invest into our children. And that's fair wages, professional development, respect for the craft.
Amazing. Thank you, Victoria. Faten.
Number one is that we're not babysitters. I think everybody thinks as us because we do have like babies that we're babysitting. We're beyond babysitting facility. Basically you're investing in the future because these kids are going to be like adults eventually, and you're teaching them now how to be kind, how to, empathy, how to be supportive. You're investing in our future, and by funding us, you're funding the country basically. Because without the proper education, knowledge, what do you have? And you're also supporting the economy because the parents can't work if there's no care for their children. So it's like, it goes to both ends.
Amazing. Well, I don't think that we could end on a better note than what you both just said. We need to invest in early educators. They are supporting our workforce of today, our workforce of tomorrow. You guys are doing literal brain science. 90% of the brain develops before age 5. You're literally crafting brains, and we need to acknowledge that and invest in that. Just want to thank both of you today for being with us, and all the teachers and educators that we work with all across the state. We do appreciate you. Your work is essential. Your work is critical to every part of what we do in the state, and we at Groundwork appreciate educators very much. So happy Teacher Appreciation Week. Thank you to Victoria and Faten for joining us today. And that concludes our morning meeting call. So everybody have a great week, and we will send out the links that were in the chat today in our follow-up email.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for having me. Have a great
Thank
day.
you so much.